إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ومن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقال الله تعالى الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون وقال تعالى يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبعث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم كل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. So I woke up one morning in fear. It was a new day of class and a new teacher. And I've heard about this man, this teacher, who brought students to tears with his witty yet harsh criticism. And many of us have had that kind of teacher, the one who's really strict, right? And you're scared to answer a question lest you be reprimanded. So this teacher, he would expect the correct information whenever you were asked a question. And if you didn't know the answer, you were at least expected to be honest in your ignorance. But if you lied, the minister of disinformation. So in this modern era, we can all easily be international ministers of disinformation. And we've all had that kind of message on our phones, right? We're on a WhatsApp, and we see someone forward a message that seems sometimes too outrageous to be true. For example, people have forwarded messages like Cadbury chocolates have Ebola because the chocolate came from Africa, or that COVID vaccines cause you to become a human magnet like Magneto. Sometimes it's political, sometimes people pass on this information with a good intent, but they spread things without thinking about it first. And regardless, right, it's much harder nowadays to make sure we're getting trustworthy information. We have to double and triple check things to make sure we're following true and authentic information. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that it is enough of a lie for a man to narrate everything that he hears. So in this day and age, it's so easy to spread information so quickly. It literally takes a second or two, right? And spread across the entire globe. For instance, there was a message recently that I saw, right? Something about the airport authority. And we're not sure what that pray in the airport musalla that the musallas may be taken away. And I got this on multiple WhatsApp threads, right? All forwarded. If someone believes that message, right? They'll end up praying more in the musalla, right? So that's not a bad thing, right? Maybe it's fake news, but some good maybe came out of it. But that doesn't mean that the end justifies the means, because sometimes real harm can actually be done by these kind of things. And we live in a world where violence is right around the corner, right? They just finished the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, right? Who took it upon himself to arm himself and defend a town based on the information he was getting that was not even his own hometown, miles and miles very far away. We saw what happened almost a year ago at the Capitol, right? Based on fake news and these kind of things and how people stormed the Capitol. So just think about what can happen if someone with a bad intention gets fake news, arms themselves, follows it, and the chaos that could occur after that. Right? It's a dangerous time, and we have a dangerous ability to spread this false information quickly. And as Muslims, right, we are held to a higher standard by our very religion. Again, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is enough of a lie for a man to narrate everything that he hears. So I want to talk a bit today about spreading information without verifying it, and focusing on something we're specifically often guilty of, right, which is WhatsApp forwards, or forwarding on social media. And I want to start also by focusing on Surah Al-Nur, which deals with the Quranic approach to dealing with rumors. And let's face it, right? Like it or not, people love to gossip. It's something that's kind of inherent to who we are as people. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal warns us against gossiping and warns us against backbiting. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He emphasizes the dangers of backbiting, right? Talking about people behind their back, spreading things about them that they wouldn't want spread. And Allah tells us in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ajtanibu kathiran min ad-dhann, inna ba'da dhanni ithmun. Right? O believers, avoid many suspicions, for indeed some suspicions are sinful. And then Allah goes on to say, right? Do not spy, do not backbite one another. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? You would despise that. And fear Allah, surely Allah is the acceptor of repentance, the most merciful. Right? So eating the flesh of our brother and our sister, right? Many of us know this verse. And know, there's this punishment associated with backbiting, and something we'd never want to do, which is why Allah makes it such a graphic and vivid description for us. And again, this type of behavior, right, spreading information, right, backbiting about people, these kind of things can cause real harm to people, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So now let's imagine that you're on a camping trip, right, with your friends, and you're married, and you and your friends and your spouses go out camping and having a fun time, in separate tents, of course. And in the morning, you go for a nice walk, right? And you're enjoying the nature and the birds and the trees and the air and all of that stuff. And you come back, and all of your friends are gone. Your spouse is gone. The camp is gone, the tents, the equipment, the cars, everything is gone, right? Somehow they thought you were in the car with them, and they left, and they went back home. And when you came to the woods to camp, you weren't paying attention. You were having such a fun time. You have no idea how you got here. Right, you were in the passenger seat and you had no idea the direction that you came or anything. So now you're completely lost in the middle of the woods. And then someone comes to you from far away, right? Someone from the opposite gender comes, they see that you're lost, they know where they are, and they offer to guide you. So you follow them, you don't really talk to them much, you just tell them, you're from such and such a place, can you take me there? And you follow them, and then they lead you back to civilization. But as you exit the woods, someone from your community sees you walking out of the woods, maybe it's dark, and then suspicions start arising. And all of a sudden, before you know it, rumors have started spreading about you. People start giving you dirty looks. Your reputation is in ruin. Everywhere you go, people are thinking bad things about you. Right? How would you feel? So if this story sounds like vaguely familiar, it's because something similar happened to our mother, Aisha radiallahu anha. Right? Some of us may know the story. Right? Once she went on the Prophet ﷺ on a campaign with the caravan with all their tents and animals and everything. And she left something behind, so she went to go get it, and they thought that she was in the tent with them, and the whole caravan left. So then she was all alone, right? Everyone left her, she was all deserted. And then a Sahabi ended up finding her. His name was Safwan. And he guided her back to Medina, right? But the hypocrite, right, led by Abdullah ibn Ubay bin Salul, right, that the chief hypocrite, he made up lies, right, to defame her, to embarrass her, and by extension, to hurt the Prophet ﷺ. So by Allah's mercy, she was exonerated in the Quran. But this shows us that spreading rumors and spreading fake news is not just something that happens now. It's something that can affect all of us, including the best person to ever walk this earth. And you can imagine what would have happened now, right? Back then it was word of mouth. If it happened now, WhatsApp wouldn't have confined that news to Medina, but it would have gone probably worldwide. So going back to Surah An-Nur, right, that surah deals with the incident of the slander of Aisha, in part. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives us some clear advice on an approach, right? How do we deal with this issue of rumors? So first, we have to have good thoughts amongst the believers. And Allah mentions in Surah An-Nur, لَوْلَا إِذْ سَمِعْتُمُوهُ ظَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ خَيْرًا وَقَالُوا هَذَا إِفْكٌ مُبِينٌ. Why, when you heard it, did not the believing men and the believing women think good of themselves and say, this is an obvious falsehood? So when we hear a rumor, right, about a fellow Muslim brother or fellow Muslim sister, we should have good thoughts, not bad thoughts. Our first instinct should be to think good, right? Find a way to defend them. Next, we get more advice in the surah. And this is relevant to the idea of spreading fake news and rumors, right? And we should not circulate false stories. Sometimes we spread information that we think is harmless and we don't think much of, right? 1 or 2 clicks, maybe hundreds of our contacts have this information now and we barely blink an eye. But Allah warns us against this type of behavior. Also in Surah An-Nur, and Allah tells us, oh, you have believed, if there comes to you, Allah tells us, when you have received it with your tongues, right? When you've received it with your tongues, and said it with your mouth, that of which you had no knowledge, and thought it was insignificant, while it was, in the sight of Allah, tremendous. So in this ayah, right, Allah mentions three things. Right? First is accepting it with their tongues. And what does that mean? Usually if you hear information, you accept it with your ears, right? You hear it and then you process it and you think about it. So how do you accept information with your tongue? So by using that wording, Allah is telling us that He's warning us, right, against just getting information and then spitting out right away. Right? We're not even thinking about it. We're just getting it and it comes right off our tongue. So that's something we have to avoid. May Allah protect us all from being among people who do that. Second, after that we have to we talk about it, right? So people spread it and then it comes off their tongue, then they keep talking about it more and more, it spreads more and more. And then on top of that, Allah tells us the third thing is that they belittle it, right? They think very little of it. So people spread false information, right? About vaccines and elections and medications and politics and this and that. And oftentimes they don't think it's anything major, but they don't realize how major it can actually be and what kind of damage it can actually cause. So this ayah is giving us guidance on how to act. Right? We have to know how to process information. First, you have to think about it. Right? You get information, you think about it. And then you have to decide, is it wise? Is it a good thing to spread this information? Right? What are the benefits? What are the risks in spreading this information? And then we have to not belittle it. Right? We have to give it the weight that it deserves. Think about the consequences of what this will do and don't belittle any action. Right? Because we don't want to be ministers of disinformation. Later on in the surah, Allah gives us further guidance. Right, encouraging us to establish evidence and to have proof. And Allah mentions in the translation, why did they not produce 4 witnesses? And when they do not produce the witnesses, then it is they in the sight of Allah who are the liars. Now this is referring specifically to that slander of Aisha and that whole incident. But there's a rule we can take from this, that we as Muslims should always investigate information, make sure that we can verify before we decide to pass it along. And if you look at many, many fields, right, science, journalism, medicine, and more, evidence-based practice is the standard. It's what's expected. And in an age of fake news and rumor mongering, right, we have to uphold the Quranic advice to establish evidence and to provide proof, right, for anything that we pass along. And Allah mentions this advice in Surah Al-Hujurat, right? And He tells us that if somebody if a disobedient one comes with information, that we should investigate it, lest that we harm some people out of ignorance, and then we become regretful over it, right? So many times in the Quran, you can see this is just in 2 surahs itself, Allah is, instructing us, right, to verify information that we get before we spread it. So let's take this advice, this Quranic advice, right, which was revealed specifically regarding the slander of Aisha, but we can extrapolate it to apply in general, right, about misinformation. Let's bring that to the modern day, right? We get information from all sources, and unfortunately, a lot of people get their information just through social media. Right? WhatsApp or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is. And as Muslims, we need to embody these lessons from Surah Al-Nur when we see something that comes to us from any unclear source. So first, have good thoughts. Second, don't circulate stories right away. Right? Think about the news, think about the risks and benefits of spreading it. And then thirdly, verify, verify, verify. Right? Just think, if everyone just did this, how much less fake news and rumors and hurt we'd cause in the world. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us all among those who verify our information and ascertain our sources before we spread things. Ameen. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillahi, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So we can see, right through the story of Aisha and the slander, that no one is safe from people spreading unverified information. And it causes serious hurt and serious pain. So think about how the Prophet ﷺ must have felt. Right? Imagine if your spouse or your children or your mom or your sibling, right? Someone you loved most in the world, if they were accused of something terrible, and you knew they were innocent, but you were in a certain position, maybe you were a community leader or whatever it is, and you couldn't do anything right away. You just had to have time and truth eventually exonerate them, eventually let the truth be known with Allah's will. Imagine how hard that must have been for the Prophet ﷺ. And that had not changed. Spreading information like that nowadays can cause serious harm even now. For example, in 2018, there was a video that was passed around in India, right, through WhatsApp. and it showed the kidnapping of a child. It was fake, and the police told everyone it was fake. But whoever forwarded the video, they found a man identified in that video, and they marked him as a kidnapper, and then they found him, and they ended up killing him, right? And this mob mentality was already underway before the police could even do anything, all because of how fast it spread on WhatsApp and the fact that it was fake, right? And people didn't bother to even check. In 2015, right, word spread that a Muslim man killed a cow, and as we know, cows are considered sacred to Hindus. And again, word spread, not verified, no evidence, and then he was also killed by an angry mob. So these are the real dangers that can actually happen when we pass information without verifying. And we pass around all kinds of information, right? Political, medical, financial, sometimes without thinking. We pass information that experts should vet, right? Experts should verify this information. Yet oftentimes we act like the experts, right? We pass it along, and without any background knowledge, right? Just thinking, oh, this sounds good, I have to let everybody know. Think about COVID, right? Experts say one thing, but people believe the exact opposite, and then they spread false information to try and defend their views. For example, microchips in the vaccine, right? Whatever your thoughts are on the vaccine, whether you're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, whatever it is, there is no credible evidence that there are microchips in the vaccine. Yet people pass fake news and stick to that so strongly. So if enough people, you can think, if enough people pass that around and convince people not to get the vaccine, and then a COVID outbreak spreads, or a new variant comes, you can imagine how it could decimate people and end people's lives and ruin families, all because of false information that spreads, and that people latch onto and keep spreading and spreading and spreading. So it's not just COVID, right? This happens with everything. Anything that people, find that sounds appealing, that sounds enticing, they try and spread it without thinking. So we have to go back to the rules, right? Think, weigh the risks and benefits, and verify. So just like in that case, those cases in India, right? Just passing stuff without thinking can lead to real harm. And we pay so much attention, right, to the isnad in hadith, right? Who are narratives? Were they trustworthy people? How did they pass the information to each other until we got that hadith from the Prophet ﷺ? And rightfully so, right? Our deen is based on the Quran and the Sunnah, and the Sunnah is based on verifying verifiable information from where the Prophet ﷺ statement came from. But why don't we pay attention to the isnad when we pass along information ourselves, right? Why don't we check where it came from before we pass it along and add ourselves to that chain? So we have to, when we get information, right, we have to investigate the isnad, right? Did it come from an expert? Or just someone trying to pass their knowledge without having any background at all? Are they actually jahil, right? Did it come from someone who's ignorant on the matter? So now back to the topic of WhatsApp before we end, right? How many times have you gotten messages in WhatsApp or email or whatever, like, forward this 100 times to avoid getting cursed, or something like that, right? Forward it 10 times, 50 times, send it to all your contacts. Right? Sometimes it seems silly, right? How would forwarding something do any harm? But then sometimes a voice in the back of your mind says, hey, there's no harm in just forwarding it, just in case something happens, I might as well just forward it and protect myself. But again, another danger with social media can be so dangerous because of how easy it is. Because if we forward it, right, thinking that even a small chance that we could have harm ourselves by not doing that, then that's a path that could lead to shirk. Because we all know, right, that good and bad, all of that comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. So we can't attribute that power of good and bad happening to us to a text message or a social media post. It's yet another danger of the time that we live in, the ability to fall into shirk with the click of a button. Right? May Allah protect us all. Ameen. So technology, it is amazing, right? We can learn from scholars around the world. We can listen to lectures and podcasts. We can keep in touch with friends, with family worldwide. But it's a double-edged sword. It makes it that much easier to spread false news, to pass information without thinking. And even if we had a good intention, we can cause more harm than we even think. And it's so much more important, therefore, that we take a second to pause, think, weigh the risks and benefits of spreading information, and verify before we click that button and pass the information on. Whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook or TikTok or Twitter, as Muslims, we have to be the ministers of true information, not the ministers of disinformation. So may Allah Azza wa Jal make us an example for the world as leaders in spreading truth and righteousness. Ameen. And may Allah allow us to avoid spreading falsehood and fake news. Ameen. May Allah allow us all to verify any information we spread and not harm anyone by our actions and become regretful by doing so. And may Allah Azza wa Jal protect us, our families, and our community from COVID and all other diseases. And may Allah bless all of us who are sick. There's a teacher within our community as well whose father had a stroke. May Allah protect him and grant him shifa, and shifa to all our family and friends who are suffering from any ailments. And may Allah allow us all to worship Him in the way He deserves to be worshipped, and grant us all Jannatul Firdaus without account. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma inna salga jannah, Allahumma ajirna minan nar. Allahumma inna salga jannah, Allahumma ajirna minan nar. Allahumma inna salga jannah, Allahumma ajirna minan nar. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik. Rabbi zidna ilma, Rabbi zidna ilma, Rabbi zidna ilma. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin, kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim, innaka hamidun majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin, kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim, innaka hamidun majid. Wa qimus salah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Make sure lines are straight, caps are closed. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, siratal ladhina an'amta 'alayhim, ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, siratal ladhina an'amta 'alayhim, ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. فصل لربك وانهر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Taqabbalallahu minna wa minkum. Just want to give a quick announcement. We're gonna pray Salat al-Asr very soon. So we're gonna pray at the exact time with Salat al-Asr, which is around what time? Like 2:10? 2:10? Around 2:10 p.m. So please just stay. We're gonna pray Salat al-Asr at 2:10 p.m. inshallah. So we have a quick couple announcements as well. So this Sunday at 10 a.m. we have a free workshop. It's called Building Genuine Kindness. This is this Sunday, December 12th at 10 a.m. And this is just like virtual classes for both parents and children from ages of 0 to 5. And if you'd like to learn more about the workshop, it's nycmuslimcenter.org/uplift. And also one more thing is that we're asking also for donations to help with the masjid construction. You can always check at bill.nycmuslimcenter.org. Alhamdulillah, our expansion is going well. We just need your continued support, continued donations, and jazakumullah khair for everyone that's been supporting us. Also, just to let you know, this Sunday we have our community Fajr breakfast this Sunday at 10 a.m. So this is for this Sunday at 6:10 a.m. I'm sorry about that. This Sunday we have a community Fajr breakfast at 6:10 a.m. And just to let you know, for the Salah timings, Fajr will be 6:10 a.m., Dhuhr is 1:15, Asr is 2:30, Maghrib is 5 minutes after Adhan, and Isha is 7 p.m. Also, please, if anyone wants to drop off food or anything at the masjid, they must get permission from the administration before doing so. You can email at community@masjidisa.org. And also, please just wear your mask properly when you're inside the masjid. Make sure you cover, both your nose and your mouth as well. And we have masks available, so please, just when you come in, just please cover with the mask properly as well. All right, jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.